Okay, this is part 2 of the lecture for lesson 7, and it's going to focus mostly on exercise 1, which is on this page here. Now, although we did leave off briefly, we were talking about the viewfinder that I have here. We'll get back to that in a second. Exercise 1 in your book may or may not have a border already, and it may be on an opposite page, but everything else is the same. Also, there's another exercise in here which you'll be doing for homework, which is identical except that it's more complicated. You'll notice there's a piece of vellum on this. Now, the vellum will stay covering your picture, whether your picture's on this side or this side. What that does is the vellum actually acts to generalize this realistic shape for you when you're starting to learn how to do abstract, freehand, continuous line drawing of contours of objects. What that means is it actually will somewhat minimize all of the details on here for you, so you can concentrate just on the contrasts of the shape against the background. Okay, so what we're going to do first is, the first thing we have to do, if yours doesn't have a border, is to draw one. Now we're going to do a freehand border, and since these two pages are the same size, I can simply, the border is going to be where the edge of the background is on this picture. So you simply would take your pencil across here, and this can just be approximate, it's going to be all right, and we're going to draw a line over here. We're approximating the edge of this picture plane, which is the edge of this picture. Now the distance from here to here, you can approximate that as well. Mostly, you know, because in this one, and first of all, you have this size here. We're going to put this over here. Because we won't be touching the border on the sides anyway, so it really isn't that critical if you have to draw your border. And then this one's across the bottom, right here, about even with the other one. Now, what I wanted to say about this viewfinder. Now, this viewfinder is not the same proportion as this picture. In other words, this one is somewhat shorter when you compare the width to the height compared to this one. This one's a little taller. That's okay, because you'll be using this when you do it in class with a real stool. And this shape approximates the proportion of your drawing pad closer. But what I wanted to say was what left off in the last one abruptly was these tick marks here, which are middle marks, the middle of the sides. So I'm going to mark the middle of these sides over here. And you would do that on your large paper when drawing in the classroom. You can actually put more than that on. If you want to do quarters and what have you, you could also do that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you want to look at this stool and draw it over here. You don't want to trace it, you want to draw it. Now you're not drawing it, you're drawing just the contour. Now, this is the description right here of the drawing exercise. I'm going to go down this explanation one at a time. It says when drawing observed objects, in this case just a picture, first decision is to decide what the size of the object is on the paper. Well, this is your picture plane or the paper, and this object here is not touching the picture plane edge, so you want it fairly big. In fact, you're going to want it about this far from here. So it's going to be something like that. You want it about this far from the bottom. And again, just as I told you earlier in the other lecture, you're looking at the farthest distances out. Okay? What's the highest and what's the lowest? And that other one is about, it's a little more than a 1/4 inch. So you're deciding that this object at its tallest part, and this is a portrait format, is that it's going to take up about this much room. That's the first thing you want to do, because if you start a contour drawing and you're only going to do a little one in the middle, then you decided how big that was going to be. The idea here is to make the contour drawing in relationship to the border. Okay, the next thing it says is, this is accomplished by measuring the object's proportional shape and then marking any distinctive corners or other details on the paper. What that means is proportional shape, you would always take the narrowest or shortest first. So in other words, if I lay my pencil here, and I have the edge of my pencil is on this protruding bump here, and I have and I grab the pencil over here on the other bump, that's the width of this shape at this point. I could pick any point, but I picked that one, and that's okay because I'm going to use these same 2 points over here. Now, how is this? Does this relate to the height? Well, if I put my thumb down here, and then it goes this far, and then it goes that far again, and it gets to the stool bottom of the top here. So it's more than 2. The height is more than 2 times the width. Okay, well that's helpful. I want to remember that. Now I'm going back. Let's see what else it wants to know. It says, any distinctive corners or details. Here's a corner here. Here's a corner here. This is a detail, and I use these 2 details also. Now, if I was to mark these tick marks over here, that would help me to make a relationship to the picture, right? But when you're out there in the studio and you're using this, you'd be using these, not these, okay? But since we have a picture, we can just mark them over here. So now what that does for you is this. So now you have this distinctive feature here, and you know that the top is a little bit to the left, if you notice how much there's more here than there is here, up here. So that's helpful to me because I know, I knew that this width was, it looks like it's just below the tick mark is where these 2 bumps are. Okay, and they're this wide. So you can use this measurement right in your book and do this. And it's going to go right in here. And these are about even spaces from the edge of the picture plane. This one's slightly wider. So that's going to be about right here. And so this one's slightly wider than this one. They're at about that same place, and there are these little geographical marks, I call those. These are helpful for you. Now you look down here and you see, well, it looks like it's just up here, but it's just to the right of the center, which we had here, so we can put that in right there. And that approximates this. Up here it's a little more general, so it's not really a really good corner or geographical feature. You see what I mean? It's more or less this round thing, and you don't really know where it is. You need these corners. Now, so I knew that when I did this, and I went down here, I knew that 2 of these went to the bottom of this, and right out there are these 2 corners. So if I went over there and did this, start here, and there's 1, 2. I know that the bottom of this, but we're not drawing this, we're drawing this out here. So we need to be out here somewhere with these corners. And I'm just drawing them like little corners like that. Now you can go in here and look and see this looks like about the same width as this space here. So that's actually pretty close to where it would be. And the same thing over here, that's pretty close. Actually it isn't, because this one, as another way to do this, you'll notice how if I go using this pencil parallel with the border, it looks like that corner is farther in up here than this bump. So it can't be there, it looks like it's about here. So when I talked about measuring objects' proportional shape and then marking any distinctive corners or other details where they might be at the size you want to draw. See, this is going to be very helpful in order to do a continuous line contour drawing, and especially when you're in the classroom using this and you have a big piece of paper. Now it says to start and go in a clockwise direction. You could go in a counterclockwise direction, that's okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start clockwise at a distinctive feature, which is this corner, which is really, my eye is over here looking at this. But I'm drawing over here. Now from here to here is a straight line, but you start to see how, boy, this is going to be fairly easy. But this is a continuous line drawing, and it's a freehand drawing, so I do not lift my pencil. I leave it there, I look some more, I'm going to go around this and then keep going. Now what I'm doing is my eye is actually looking over here while I'm drawing, and I notice that this one is higher than this one. So I'm going to stop somewhere in here. And it's going to be, now what I'm looking for now is details. And you know, once you get used to doing this and do it a couple times, you'll see more and more details. And by details I mean, oh, there's little undulations in here, and you'll see little bumps here. But for right now, you're just trying to do a real contour, continuous line shape. Now, we don't want to keep going up. As soon as you hit the object again, you have to go this way. So now you're following your eye down here. And then you're looking down here to this, and you go, well, I can't keep going this way. I've got to go down to this. Go around, back up. And you notice how this stops right here, where this one comes around the corner, and then this one goes this way. Now you'll go this way. Now you have to stop again, because you'll have to go down and go around this leg. What you're doing again is you're trying to make a shape. Out of a complicated object, you're trying to make a simple shape. This takes practice. But this is how you begin to practice this. This is not a drawing. This is an abstract or abstraction of an object using a freehand, continuous line contour drawing. The value of this is that you end up looking a lot more at what you're drawing when you draw like this, instead of concentrating on just one small part and then getting it out of proportion. And you see I never left my pencil from the paper, okay? Okay, now the second part to this is there are other negative shapes. If you look over here, you have this background here is considered a negative shape. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you notice how these two here, this one and this one, are very similar in width. This one is thinner. If you look down here, you can logically see, if you look, that this is formed by these two legs, but you're not drawing the legs, you're drawing the background shape. Background shapes are the easiest way to draw complicated objects. If you can do that with this one, when you get to this one, you will be able to do this fairly accurately. This is not a good thing to do if you don't use this technique. This makes it much easier because you're simply drawing shapes. In the background, you're not drawing a stool. So how did I draw this? Well, I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to pick this width and start here because I know that it is this wide. So I didn't start here. I'm going to start here, right in this corner. And I'm going to go over to about here. Now what I'm doing now is I'm looking to see I should stop because this would go straight down this leg, but you aren't going there. You're going to go down there, but you're only going to go down until you hit this line here. Then I came over along here and then back up. This is also a negative shape. Then I will do the same thing on the other two. Now, look and see what I did there. And then you say, well, gee, that doesn't look right. What happened? Well, if you look at this one, you notice how this has a line that goes downhill. You see that? Mine went straight across because I wasn't looking at what I was drawing. Now, that's a typical thing that usually happens, and you can simply say, oh, I made a mistake. Well, but I'm just learning, right? That's all we're doing here. So you just say, well, that was not good. I've got my gum eraser here. Gum erasers, of course, as you know, are better for bigger areas. And they do leave a lot of crumbs. So see, they're a little hard to get into these small areas, but that's okay. This one actually goes down to here, and that closer approximates a downhill line like this one. Now we have 3 more negative shapes. This one here does not have closure. This is a large shape. You've got 3 smaller ones here. Looks like there's 3 more in here. The more that you do this, the more you'll see that the things look fairly accurate. And it is very easy to draw complicated objects this way by drawing the simple background shapes. And so you sometimes feel, well, maybe, you know, would be easier if I would just draw it the way I always do it. Well, that's not really true. If you can really get yourself to do this, you'll find that all through this whole class, you'll find that as things get more complicated, they are much easier to draw if you look at them in their simplest form with the simplest shape. Okay, this is all that there really is to this exercise, except then you want to check your work. In other words, you take the vellum, put a piece of, well, first of all, you want to trace this one. So I'm going to trace this. And we do a lot of tracing in this book. If you look at a lot of the exercises in here, a lot of the learning about how things look is that you actually trace it, then you end up drawing the real thing out in the real world and compare the two and see just exactly how you look at the world and what you see that looks different. And you notice when I'm doing this one, I'm not doing a continuous line because all I'm doing is tracing it, because all I want to do is see how good I did. And when I get done doing this, I probably could have sped the camera up here, but I'm just going to draw it as fast as I can. I don't want to make too many mistakes, otherwise what's the point of comparing it?